between the sheets. You're contagious. Touch me, baby. Give me what you got. You know, my brothers, I love my brothers. And we loved each other unimaginable.
Before NSYNC, before the Backstreet Boys, before any boy band you've ever screamed over, there were the Isley Brothers, the OGs, the Blueprint. The guys who basically invented the game. But here's what you didn't know. Behind the iconic hits, the sold-out shows,
You're looking at the plug.
and the timeless music lies a story that's just as legendary for all the wrong reasons.
When I wrote the song, It's Your Thing, Very Garden and them sued us. That's the first time they got sued.
Oh.
And they sued us because they thought that Holland and Dozier and some of their writers had wrote. So we back and forth, went to court, and we wound up winning. But that was one of the things that really hurt us.
Right. Your own kind.
Because he didn't believe that that song was too big or
y'all couldn't have wrote it. Oh, wow.
That brotherly bond? Yeah. It wasn't as brotherly as it seemed. Seriously, we're talking million-dollar lawsuits, family betrayals, and scandals so shady they make today's drama look tame. It all started in 1954 in Cincinnati, Ohio. The group was formed by four brothers, O'Kelly Jr., Rudolph Ronald, and Vernon Isley, sons of O'Kelly and Sally Isley, who just so happened to be in love with music, a love they passed down to their boys.
It was my mother and father's, but 63 years ago, we had the hit record Shout. We were singing way before that.
Oh my God, either your parents, were they musical?
Yeah, my mother's very musical, taught music, played for the church, choirs, and whatever.
And y'all sang in the choir too?
Oh, yeah. Ernie wasn't
59, I was 7 years old. I was watching them, I was watching my older brothers.
All four of them started out by singing gospel along with their mother. Not long after, they formed a four-member gospel group that performed in their local churches.
My mother was a musical teacher. She taught a lot of people, but she taught us, and the mother and father, they wanted this quartet to be like the Mills Brothers. So they taught us, and I think I started singing when I was 2 years old.
Now, I'm not familiar with the instruments that you play. I know that you have to play some instruments because you write such wonderful music. What do you play?
I play a little piano, but not that much. I never played on any of the records. And my other brother's real heavy into the music. Ernie's a guitar player, and Marvin was a bass player.
And how do you write your music?
Basically, from humming it to whomever is going to lay it down. From an idea that will come to you from. I guess that's the gift that you have, it's like a dream to say, I hear this melody, and you go to someone that's musical, and you hum the melody to them and say, now play this, do that, do this, do that.
Now, do you feel you use your voice as an instrument?
Yes, I do, because when we're putting down tracks, I'll hum the different keyboard parts to the song.
Wonderful. I mean, it is.
Bass line.
Answer that question.
Here's the bass line, here's the rhythm guitar line, and here's the drum line.
See, and you can hear all that, even though you don't physically play them. That's wonderful.
You're correct.
And what education, besides your mom teaching you, did you have education in school as far as music was concerned?
Not that much through school, other than, what they just, the regular, I went to the 12th grade, so whatever they teach there. But my brothers went to college and Juilliards and that type of thing,
But life isn't always fair. Before they could even gain recognition, the youngest of them, Vernon, tragically lost his life in 1955 due to a car accident. This ended the group, but they didn't stop there. In 1957, the remaining brothers moved to New York City to pursue a career in rock and roll. Fast forward to 1959, and they dropped their first major hit, Shout.
You know you make me wanna shout, kick my heels up and shout.
You know it. Your aunt still loses her mind over it at weddings. And so began their legendary journey. Not long after came their next hit, Twist and Shout. And if it sounds familiar, that's because the Beatles loved it so much they turned it into one of their biggest hits. But let's be clear, the Isleys did it first.
Well, when we went to England, they were imitating us. they were like doing the woo, shout, twist and shout.
You're talking about the Beatles or everybody that was all the performers over there.
And they, Paul McCartney will tell you today, say if it don't be for the Isley Brothers, we would still be in Liverpool. Yeah.
I'm assuming Liverpool is the hood in England.
We wouldn't have the British invasion. Let's just say
that's when he started off singing the little clubs and stuff there in Liverpool. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they want to cover your song, right?
Yeah.
So at the time, I'm assuming there's not a lot of videos. There's not. So, but do you know the Beatles as white people when it comes to you?
When we were over there, every day, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and us were together at night. They were talking about staying at a house when they come to New York City.
Right.
They were asking questions like, does James Brown have 100 pair of shoes? And do he shine those shoes before we go on stage?
Right.
Because you guys were the rock stars to them.
Yeah, yeah. We answered all those questions. They were funny questions. Right. James Brown got 100 pair. He got 100 pair of shoes. Do he carry them shoes every day when he sings? Well, he carry a lot of them.
Right.
So those are the kind of questions. Can we stay at your house will you guys carry us to the Apollo Theater?
Right.
Wow.
Wow.
We promised to do all that.
Wow.
It was just the three brothers then.
Right.
Wow.
And actually, when they came to New York, they were the hottest. I think their first gig was Ed Sullivan.
By the late 60s, they were switching things up. Their music started leaning funkier, sexier, and more rebellious. Then came It's Your Thing in 1969, a song that felt like a giant middle finger to the industry telling them what to do. It was bold, it was funky, and it won them a Grammy. In the 1970s, the group expanded when their younger brothers, Ernie and Marvin, and brother-in-law Chris Jasper joined the mix. This new lineup brought fresh energy, and with it came some of their most iconic hits. That Lady, Fight the Power. We gotta fight the powers that be. And For the Love of You. They were doing funk, soul, R&B, and even rock before anyone else dared to. They weren't afraid to experiment, and that's why they've stayed relevant for so many decades.
Family training family taught us in the beginning to do gospel, country, and western, just all phases of music, we love it all. And so that's why we're so adaptable to be able to switch from one thing to another. I mean, at one time when I started to do shout and twist and shout and these type of records, then later in the years we got into the love songs, For the Love of You, In Between the Sheets, and on and on and on. That's the same vocalist that you're hearing that sang Fight the Power is singing Hello It's Me, Summer Breeze, That's just the knowledge of knowing how to put the funk down at that particular time and knowing and having a feel for the slow ballads such as the Johnny Mathis type of feel for the Hello It's Me or For the Love.
Ronald Isley kept the group alive. Oh, and by the way, guess who used to roll with them? By the time they hit the Verzoos stage in 2021, facing off against Earth, Wind and Fire, it was clear they're timeless. Oh, and if you still need proof of their legendary status, they have sold over 18 million units sold in the U.S. alone. And they're one of the only groups to hit the Billboard Hot 100 with new music in 6 different decades. 6! Can you believe? Think about it. They've been making hits longer than most artists today have been alive. 16 of their albums hit the top 40, and 13 of those went gold, platinum, or multi-platinum. In 1992, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame by Little Richard himself. If you're getting honored by the king of rock and roll, you know you've done something right.
So many people have stayed with us so many years.
Then in 2014, they added a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award to their trophy case. The numbers don't lie, and neither does their legacy. But behind the music, there's a roller coaster of family feuds, lawsuits, and scandals that could fill an entire series. Let's get into it. Back in 2005, Ronald found himself in some serious trouble with the IRS. Turns out, he had a bad habit of skipping out on his taxes. And when I say skipping, I mean years of unpaid taxes. Prosecutors claimed he was pulling all kinds of shady moves, cashing royalty checks in his late brother O'Kelly's name, paying his bandmates in cash to avoid paper trails, and conveniently forgetting to file his tax returns. By the time they were done with him, they'd seized a ton of his assets and slapped him with an indictment. In 2006, the verdict came down, and let's just say it wasn't pretty. Ronald was sentenced to 3 years and 1 month in federal prison and ordered to cough up $3.1 million in back taxes. The court even called his actions pathological tax evasion. Yikes. However, he had this to say.
And as a king, everybody there treated me like a king, you know. I sang for the guys. I met some my best friends that I met in there. I did shows for them, man. I did some of the best shows in my career. I can't even explain to you guys how good it was and how great it was for them and how the appreciation.
As it turns out, he was dealing with a lot of personal issues, including the death of 2 of his accountants, which made it difficult for Isley to keep accurate records. He also had some serious health issues at the time. He'd had a stroke, was battling kidney cancer, and still managed to dig himself into this hole. He said this at an interview.
Bling and everything, it's not worth it. It's not worth it when you're going to be locked away. If you're going to be locked away from your family for 1 year or 6 months, it's not worth it.
After serving his time, he came back to the music scene like nothing happened. You know how they always say, don't mix family and business? Well, the Isley brothers are the perfect example of why that advice exists. Let's take it all the way back to 1984, when things started to get messy. Ronald, Rudolph, and O'Kelly, the 3 of the original members, found themselves in literal court over the name the Isley brothers. O'Kelly was like, hold up, I own part of that name, and decided to sue his own brothers to stop them from using it. Luckily, or maybe not so luckily, for us drama lovers, they settled it out of court. Ronald and Rudolph agreed to pay O'Kelly a portion of their earnings to keep the name. No tea spilled there, but it's clear this wasn't the end of the drama. Fast forward to 2021, and here we go again, this time with Rudolph suing Ronald. Why? Because Ronald decided to start using the Isley brothers, featuring Ronald Isley without asking for permission. Rudolph wasn't having it and filed a trademark infringement lawsuit. And here's where it gets even juicier. Ronald went ahead and applied for exclusive rights to the Isley brothers' name with the United States Patent and Trademark Office in 2021 and got them approved in 2022. Rudolph was furious. His argument was that the band's name belonged to both of them.
You know the world is coming to an end when the Isley brothers are beefing. Oh my goodness, Ron Isley done allegedly stiffed his brother Rudolph out some major coins, guys. So Rudolph was a part of the band back in the day and is claiming him and Mr. Biggs had an agreement where all the Isley brother profits were supposed to be split 50-50.
He claimed Ronald was cashing in on the brand while cutting him out of the profits, and he wanted his 50% share. It all boiled down to one thing: money, of course. In August 2023, the case took a big turn. A judge denied Ronald's motion to dismiss the lawsuit, meaning this thing is heading to trial unless they can work it out. But honestly, with the Isleys' history, who's betting on a peaceful resolution? And speaking of history, this isn't even their first rodeo in the courtroom. Remember Chris Jasper, their brother-in-law who joined the group in the 70s? Well, In the late 90s, Jasper started performing under the name Isley Jasper Isley. Ronald wasn't a fan and sued him for claiming it was confusing to fans and damaging to the brand. Surprise, surprise, they settled out of court and Jasper had to rebrand as Chris Jasper featuring Isley Brothers Chris Jasper. Oh, and let's not forget their copyright battle with Warner Brothers Records in 2001. The label used one of their songs in a TV commercial without permission, and the Isley Brothers were obviously not going to let that happen on their watch. That case was also settled for an undisclosed amount, but it's clear the Isleys don't play when it comes to protecting their legacy. But the wildest legal victory has to be the Michael Bolton plagiarism case in 1994. Bolton released a song called Love is a Wonderful Thing, and guess what? It sounded way too similar to the Isley Brothers' 1966 track of the same name. A jury agreed and awarded the brothers a jaw-dropping $5.4 million in damages. Talk about making history. This case is still one of the biggest wins for artists defending their work. But sadly, some people end up making legacies longer than they're going to live. And the same was the case here. Most recently, on October 11th, 2023, Rudolph Isley, one of the group's founding members, passed away at the age of 84.
You know, my brothers, I love my brothers. And we loved each other unimaginable. They write anything about me, they don't know. What my brothers and Elaine went through in life, God bless you. Believing in us for as many of years. My brother was my protector. He taught me everything. Both of my brothers taught me to be strong. You don't know about the love that we had for each other.
Rudolph's death followed those of his brothers and bandmates, each of whom left a lasting void in the group's legacy. O'Kelly Isley Jr., one of the original members, passed away in 1986 at the age of 48 after suffering a heart attack. Then, in 2010, Marvin Isley, the youngest brother in the group, died at the age of 56 due to complications from diabetes. Marvin's health had been a struggle for years, and in 1997, he had even gone through the amputation of both legs.
Diabetes is a disease that takes no prisoners ultimately. And initially, it can start off where you might lose a toe. Eventually, with Marvin, it got to where he lost both legs just below the knee. You have all this dialysis and things you have to deal with in order to stay alive, and depending upon the state of diabetes, you'll have a limited time with that. And in the end, oh my God, it's a real negative, heartbreaking experience.
Even with these painful losses, the Isley brothers' legacy has remained untouched, as it always will be. At the time of his death, Rudolph Isley's net worth was estimated at $2 million, earned through decades of royalties and his involvement in the group's legendary music catalog. Ronald Isley and Ernie Isley, the surviving members, hold estimated net worths of $2 million and $3 million, respectively. Even now, the story of the Isley brothers isn't over. Ronald and Ernie Isley continue to perform and release music, proving that their legacy is as alive as ever.
Got me thinking about the last time, talking about friends, and family.
That the Beatles would still be in Liverpool if it were not for you all. How does that make you feel?
It's very gracious of him. He said that to me off stage. He gave me a hug that just about cut my wind off. When he was saying it, and I was telling him how great, the
the four Beatles were, but he said that the Isley brothers are the reason why the Beatles became the Beatles. They would have still been in Liverpool without them.
In 2022, they released Make Me Say It Again, Girl, a project that brought their classic sound to a new generation.
Make me say it again, girl.
Collaborations with modern icons like Beyoncé continue to show why they are the legends they are.